Hello everyone, and welcome to Pharma Talks. Today, we will have an amazing episode and we will be really doing our best to go through the buzzwords and bring the honesty, transparency in the discussion about Omnichannel. What works of the Omnichannel for pharma and what doesn't? Where are the blind spots? Do we have any frameworks? And this is one of the very contradictional topic, Omnichannel engagement. We have been observing hunger for Omnichannel since a couple of decades already. So it has started, unfortunately not with pharma, back to a little bit to history in 2005 and 2010 with telecommunications and FMCG. They have been very successful, these companies as Nike, Apple, Sephora. And now here we are in pharma and we need to be successful, even more successful because our lives are depending on our success. Today, we have a wonderful guest in our virtual studio, Yacin Marzouki. He is the Omnichannel expert, the professional who led omnichannel and customer engagement effort across multiple regions, Japan, EMEA, South America. He brought it truly global, hands-on from the beginning. He was really the one starting it and bringing it end to end. Yacin, please welcome to our studio and tell us a little bit about yourself and your career.
So happy to do that. But before we do that, maybe Nataliya, I do want to express my admiration for Vice7 and the people of Ukraine in particular, because I have been working with Vice7 for a number of years now. And I had a lot of great partners at Vice7 and really the work that they've done throughout the years in a very difficult context. I'm very admirative. So I just want to say hi to Yulia, Nina, Irina, Ruslana, among others. Of course, there's the whole team. But I really want to also emphasize this because working in difficult circumstances and still delivering is something very admirable. When it comes to me, as you said, I'm someone who then led omnichannel initiatives end to end, really in greenfield environments, so where there was absolutely nothing, where we started from scratch. And one of my superpowers is I did everything wrong, which we could have done wrong as well. So we learned a lot, and it's also learning from the mistakes. So for example, we launched HCP portals that were very successful, but then also HCP portals that were not successful at all. Why? Because they were launched from global without then, for example, having local budget for activation. And now one of the guiding principles that I have is always, if you create content, you should also have an activation plan. So that's more or less one of my many philosophies. But it's omnichannel is, like you said, something we brought from retail, but we still actually inspire ourselves too much on B2C. And I think if we look at omnichannel, we should look at B2B initiatives. And there, for example, there's initiatives like demand generation and really take way more inspiration from what they do in B2B. But then I'm even thinking we should come up with a model that is called B2H. So business to healthcare, which makes way more sense than trying to copy paste initiatives that don't work.
You see, in business to healthcare is a great concept. I think it's really true that pharma and life sciences, they need to mother or like parent some new concept, because as much as we know omnichannel, yes, it was born in this consumer goods, telecommunications. So we have been seeing how these connected CRMs were brought this context to the consumers and how we were participating as customers in this B2C conundrum. However, you're absolutely right to bring and to parent this new business to healthcare approach. That's absolutely great. Let us talk about a little bit about blind spots, right? Because we all know that there is some, non-functional, structural, I would say, crises inside the pharma organizations, which is like normal. We all know that many businesses are working in parallel, really not contradicting with each other. Like brands, they are planning in different tools within different KPIs for the brand success. Sales, they are operational territories, not with brands, but HCPs and territories. Then the data is totally usually disconnected, and the web channels are usually also somewhere outside of the connected world. So this is what is on the surface, but as from the inside, what are the biggest blind spots pharma companies still have and can define as a part of their omnichannel collapse of the strategy?
Okay, so there's a few. So from my perspective, you already said something very important in the intro. It is that we came with omnichannel from retail. So in retail, for example, the omnichannel strategy, it's owned by usually one department or one individual. So for example, the marketing team, they own the tech stack. For example, as well as SFMC, they do the SFMC campaigns themselves. So they do the email automation themselves. They own usually the website. They create the content, etc., etc. In B2H, then business to healthcare, let's frame it that way. You already have this fragmentation, like you said, because you have marketing that doesn't really know what the tech stack is, but is very, very expert in the content. Then you have the omnichannel department that often is very, very expert in engagement strategies and in the technology and the tech stack, but they don't know the content very well. And then you have a very important department that sits somewhere there in between, but is very important and sometimes has a lot of importance, sometimes not, depending on the organization, which is the medical department. We know, for example, at HCPs, the content which they value the most is the medical content, but that's the content that usually we activate the least. We do have a symposium every now and then at the conference, but then the symposium happens. We had 150 people in the room and we're happy that it happened and then it's over. So there is not really that engagement post event on how we can bring that to the HCP. So there's already that blind spot. Then when it comes to the blind spot, it's something I don't have the answer, in all honesty, Nataliya, but it's something that I've seen discussed many, many times at conferences and many, many times with peers of myself, is actually who is the customer in healthcare. Is it the HCP? Yes. Is it the healthcare organization? Yes, because in some markets, for example, the Netherlands, you cannot have a product prescribed unless it's approved also by the local hospital. Is it the payers? Yes, because they also play a very important role for access to the treatment. And then last, but definitely not least, very important, is it the patient? Also, yes. So the patient also plays a very important role in wanting that treatment, understanding the treatment, having to actually use the treatment, having to adhere to the treatment. So not just take one pill once every 3 days if you need to take it every day for example, 2 years to really have your quality of life back. So there's so many variables also on the customer side that we very often have a blind spot because we only capture what HCPs want and we don't look at anything else. And then when it comes to another blind spot that I have observed many times, and to be honest, it's a bit of an annoyance of mine, is that very often even our insights are siloed in the sense that we have insights that are captured by insights department. So there you go, you interview HCPs, you ask them what are your needs, but then we usually report those back to all the teams. But we don't look at our analytics because the analytics are then captured in a different way. They're in our dashboards and we don't bring the insights, analytics together, try to interpret what they mean, and then report back. We're just asking Ipsos to do research. Okay, Ipsos, these are the findings. I report back to my team instead of trying to see, okay, Ipsos, these were the findings. Is this aligned with the analytics that we had? For example, did the message of mode of action really resonate? Was it not understood? Was it understood? How many HCPs was the message delivered to? Is that why we're behind on competition? All of this doesn't really happen in then those insight meetings. And then it's very hard as a local or sometimes even global marketeer or medical or omnichannel professional to understand what should we do next. And then everyone has their own interpretation because we don't have this single point of truth. And then France wants to go left, Italy wants to go right, Nordics wants to go straight, etc., etc. These are a few blind spots.
Yeah, that's very true. So because like if we can see the data not connected, so it's not connected on the global level, it's more like the local execution is really the blind spot where we can not see how this is operating. And then there's a beautiful point you have highlighted. We cannot fix it with the technology only. So with the connected technology, we are not fixing the entire thing. And there is no judgment from my side, but what I can see today, like the constructs of the ecosystems and technology starting to be overrated, over complex. So we are building really like spacecraft in terms of to connect all of these pillars. In terms like we could think about personas we are focusing on, and instead of having like isolated KPIs and isolated targets, targeting the very same personas, which can probably be helped with the AI and helped for us to mature in the topic, right? So this is where we are struggling. I had this statement from one of your earlier discussions: faster horses, wise cars, right? So you have mentioned that. So, and in one of the interviews, you have like said that. So, and if you ask HCPs what do they want, so maybe we are building nowadays faster horses, but they need really cars like Formula One and such. So they need really already Ferraris in terms of this information and communication we are going to provide. And that means, so how do you identify today those hidden cars in our engagement? So what will be these unspoken needs behind the HCPs say they want a car instead of the faster horses?
I'll try to be as concrete as possible. So it's really about asking the right questions, because it all starts with that. If you don't ask the right questions, you can never get the right answers. I think everyone who listens hopefully will agree with that. But then what those questions are, in pharma, we sometimes ask very strange questions. For example, one that comes to mind is, what is your channel preference? Channel preference is really a nonsensical question, because if I would ask even you, Nataliya, what is your channel preference for your next glasses or for your favorite brand of tea? You don't think in channels. You just think, I have a problem. I want it solved if tomorrow your glasses break. For example, you really need to go to the shop and be able to buy one in, I'll just say something random, 5 hours, because otherwise you cannot operate. And so for HCPs, instead of asking things like, what is your channel preference? There's a few questions you can ask. So depending on the level you want to achieve, is where do you access your information today already, so that you know what channels they actually use? So not asking about channels, but where do you access your information today? Then there's also the possibility to ask or look at the interpretation of the insights of what are HCPs looking for. So we don't use enough, I find, the search engine data that is available out there in our therapy area, really looking what keywords are HCPs looking for, what problems are they facing, and then what problems are they facing in front of their patients. It's also very important, because we can convince the HCP that a specific treatment works, but it's a whole different ballgame then as well for an HCP to convince his or her patient. And I had many HCP interactions in the past, locally. Mm-hmm. And they all say that also every patient is different, because we can work with personas, but some patients, they just trust the doctor. They say, yes, okay, I agree. But then there's also a lot of patients that come and ask a lot of very critical questions. For example, we also saw this at Next around the safety data. What are the pain points? What are the possible side effects? What are the possible adverse events? And if we don't equip then HCPs with that information, they cannot really make that prescribing decision with their patient. So the cars is really understand the pain points, and you need to understand by asking the right questions, not trying to have those weird consultancy type questions that we as internal people ask ourselves. We need to translate them to make sense for the HCP. So what is your pain point? Where are you accessing information today? What information are you lacking, etc., etc.?
It means like being human, right? So it's
Yes,
not being
indeed.
like programmed and robotic. So it's being human and being able to have this cohesive and human conversation, so that you are actually want to know what you want to know, but the other person so understands like why you are asking that. So, and you do not look like weird or consultancy to this person. That's absolutely right. So we are very close to this maturity question right now, because everyone today, so it's like we started this conversation with the hunger for this excellence in omnichannel, and that means a hunger for this maturity to be excellent, to be. And that was an amazing thing to talk about the channels, because what I can see, channel is important, and we need to ask them about this to understand the channel's preferences. It really like understand, right? And I would say this channel excellence is important. We need to excel all the important channels. So that's for sure. So the data excellence is important. The the right place of AI in this conundrum is important. Content intelligence. And I would say the most important thing for me in this maturity thing is the ability to receive the feedback. It's like the intelligent check if your ecosystem of omnichannel is working. Can you learn from that? Can you use that? What is your maturity ecosystem of omnichannel look like? So let's describe.
So actually, it's a very good question. And I also believe that's why omnichannel has a bad reputation, because very often the final stage is seen as the goal. So omnichannel, with this very strange definition that I personally don't like a lot, Nataliya, the right message at the right time to the right channel, it's really the conclusion of years of work, because you have a lot of steps before that. So the way I see it, you have 5 maturity levels. I don't want to go into all of them by detail, but the first one is, for example, only face-to-face. But then a very important stage after that is you activate a few other channels. That's what I call personally, for example, basic activation. And stage 3 is multi-channel. Multi-channel very often gets a bad reputation, but actually multi-channel can be great, because we just spoke now about channels before. But channels, one, they're a tactic for you to achieve something. For example, now we're doing a podcast. Is the conclusion of you, Nataliya, being seen as a thought leader within the industry because you built an audience, because you showcase expertise, because you build authority. So people associate you to a specific team. And now the podcast is a way for you still to have your thought leadership and to be able to have share of voice within that specific domain. So a lot of people nowadays, because it's fashionable, say, I will launch a podcast, but they don't understand that you also need to build an audience, showcase expertise, etc., etc. But this podcast now, Nataliya, it's not connected to the rest of your channels. It will live in itself. It will be there on the channels that you choose to put it, for example, LinkedIn, on the website of Y7, on Spotify, etc. And you will not necessarily get the insights that, for example, Dr. Anna watched it for 60 minutes and therefore you can do a follow-up with her. But that's fine, because if you give Dr. Anna then value through the content that you're creating, it will still be in her mind. And at some point when you reconnect with her, it can provide added values. What I do 100% believe in is that your content strategy, content fil rouge, your content editorial plan should be connected to one another. You cannot in one symposium say our safety data is the best and then in an email say, yeah, but we forgot to mention this. There's still, your content needs to be 100% connected. But if your channels are not connected, that's fine, because it's still a matter of you delivering the message to your HCPs and then them evolving in their thinking and being able to place you in their treatment algorithm, as I like to say. Should I place this type of inhibitor before this generic, because it's more efficacious and the safety profile now is better, or because of local guidelines, I still need to use this biosimilar because of the local access rules and payment rules, I have to use it. I don't have a choice, but we need to give them that information. What I also think is a bit oversold throughout the years, Nataliya, is that we very often think that if we do one specific action or channel, that there is this right message and that all of a sudden people will adopt a specific product. But the reason why you bought your glasses, for example, there was probably not one aha moment. There were many different variables at some point that made you then, as a conclusion, buy those glasses, or with shoes, or with bottles, or with drug. There's so many variables that come into account. The only thing you can try to do is build influence and then have a preference for your product that then can be placed in the treatment algorithm. I hope that answers the question.
It is certainly, it is highlighting the importance of how we need to excel in every channel we decide to use, right? Because this is actually this multi-channel paradigm where we need to excel in the channels which we are using. And then to make this evolution to omni-channel, we need to be logical. So we need to inherit all of the ideas we are repeating across the channel so that they are connected. So actually, as you just brought this idea of editorial plan, right? So it shouldn't be disconnected or it shouldn't be contradicting the topics to each other. So this is how the evolution must happen. And this is not only the technology which is making omnichannel. This is all this evolution of thought you have just described, and evolution of plan, and evolution of channel excellence. This is what is building this omnichannel up. I certainly agree with this statement. That's how we are orchestrating these ideas and how we succeed. And technology is only helping us, and insights are only helping us to understand. That's totally right.
Absolutely. And if I can add maybe one thing on that, Nataliya, is also
Yeah.
understand the difference between whatever level you want to achieve. But now let's take multi-channel versus omni-channel. That the higher maturity you have, the more expensive your tech stack becomes, but also the more expensive your technology content plan becomes. Because if you start working with personas and segmentation targeting only has value if you create different content for them. Because if you have 5 segments and you still create one email for all of them, it doesn't have a lot of value. Yes, having 5 different emails depending on your segments will drive additional business, but it will also cost you more because all of a sudden you need to get 5 additional emails approved, 5 different emails created, 5 different emails and personas in your systems, etc. And what also very often fails, Nataliya, is that then specific teams agree, yes, this is the way to go. For example, we want to go with 3 personas, and therefore we will create 3 different emails, 3 different landing pages. But then, very important, they don't agree on this with medical. And medical, they don't have the capacity to go and approve 3 emails and 3 landing pages. So if those decisions are made of what level you want to achieve in terms of maturity, it should be done with the whole team because everyone has their role to play, and you need to make sure that you don't create a bottleneck, that then you create 3 emails and only one gets approved. And you are probably familiar with this number as well, Nataliya, that according to Viva Pulse data, 77% of content is never or rarely seen by HCPs, even the approved one, because then even if it's approved, you still need to make sure that your reps are comfortable with it. If your reps, they don't understand the 3 different personas in really the few seconds or few minutes that they have with an HCP, they will still present the same content every time over and over again. And the rest of your content will not be used. So 77% of content is not used, which is a shame.
Yeah, I think there are different reasons to that. So first, yes, you're absolutely right. This persona must be misunderstood, and interpretation of this persona is a question mark for the who's presenting it. So for the sales rep, the other thing is the segmentation must be very generic, and the true possibility to see the person is granted to sales rep, and if they see the person. And this is the moment when you can see like what exact message you can say, right? If you feel as a salesperson, there is a mismatch of the presentation you have and the dialogue you have, you will never show this presentation to the HCP in the first time because you will understand that that will be your last meeting with this HCP, and you certainly don't want that because this is your customer. And that's also could be the reason of irrelevant content, because content intelligence is something which I believe we are also, using AI a little bit straightforward. So like generating content is not the only thing what could be done, right? So the other blocker is how many agencies have today the access to HCP data? I will say none.
Yes.
And that's like one of the blocker of the hyper personalization, because even you can particularly generate the content like hyper personalized, and let us like go further into the woods and hyper accelerate the approval, because even Viva introduced this on this latest summit, this possibility, this is coming. So, right. So how many of these agencies will see the real HCP data? This is a real blocker. And that means like we need to think about this digital persona of to whom we are talking, right? A little bit of the different angle, so that instead of having the like very generic segment, and the persona created is also could be very generic. So perhaps this acceleration, if we all work together, can happen on the different levels where we have the digital persona, which is based on the real data but anonymized, protected, and digital persona will move this hyper personalization of the talk to the HCP up and the approval up. But this is the future, I think. But many companies, but from what I see, like pharma companies are working into the direction of creating digital personas, of using these personas to get their content right for every event, for every other channel. So I'm seeing that. Right.
I have a few thoughts on that, Natalia, because I agree with your observation that seems to be a trend in the industry. The caveat there, from my perspective, is this can work in some markets. For example, the market that I still know the most in detail is the European one. So I will stick with that example, because to personalize, you need data. To have the data, usually we use the touch points that we had with our HCPs. Touch points can be face-to-face conversation, email, landing page, because these are very easy to connect, right? Then everything that happens to a congress is a bit more difficult to connect. And if they interact with you on LinkedIn, that's also a bit more difficult to connect. In some countries, it's the digital interaction and also the access face-to-face is very high. For example, in Spain, you see HCPs very regularly. They click the emails, they open the emails, they go on the landing page, they watch the video. So based on that, in Spain, yes, you could create digital personas. In Germany, there's a big difference between regions, but let's now take Germany as a whole. It's very difficult to have access to HCPs. Some HCPs you see once, 2 times a year. So that's already very few touch points. And then, with the funnel, not all of them open the emails, not all of them click the emails, not all of them go to the landing page, and for sure, not all of them watch the video. So that means that actually being able to personalize in Germany is very hard because you have a very low amount of touch points. And the few HCPs that you have a lot of touch points with will be also very low. And then depending on the therapy area, you have a lot of GPs. You don't have that many oncologists focusing on solid tumors. So then you would have to make a whole assumption of personas based on, for example, in Germany, 12 HCPs that really went through your whole journey. So that's here the caveat. It works for some markets, but not for all.
This is the biggest blind spot, what we have mentioned before, because this is where the local situation is impacting the entire approach to omnichannel. And that means like the omnichannel has nationality and has belongingness and real like also cultural and really for these local differences. So very, very, very sensitive thing. So that's where we need to be also very cautious. That's why it is so time consuming, so expensive to create all this content, but where AI probably will help us to accelerate, but not as much as we think for now, but hopefully in the future more. This is like a very interesting conversation anyway. And we are now in this section of this dialogue of ours where we will have this, very fast round of questions, answers. So, it's called hot or not. So you are answering only like one word, hot, like very positive, you agree for that, and not, so like you do not believe. You can also bring some flavors like hottish, so like if you believe but not too much already. And there will be like 10 of these statements. So are you ready to start with them?
I am, yes, I am. Let's go.
Great. So first, more platforms equal better omnichannel.
Not, for sure not.
Great. Agree with you. Second, AI will outperform humans in segmentation by the end of 2026.
Not because, yes, it will outperform, but not because you segment that it adds value afterwards. So let's put it that way.
Great. Let's keep that. Rep-triggered engagement will replace mass email campaigns.
Hot, should be very hot. Yes.
Oh, I can feel that. Omnichannel starts with content, not data.
Hot, yes.
Right. HCPs want personalization, not promotion.
Yes, very hot.
Yeah, every one of us, don't we? Global should own the omnichannel strategy. Local, just execute.
It's a difficult one, but I will say lukewarm hot. Lukewarm hot.
Okay, let us see all discussion around that. The future of omnichannel is fewer, smarter channels.
Hot, but not per se channels, but content. Smarter content and content delivery.
Relevant, right. PDFs will vanish from HCPs engagement by 2027.
They're still using fax machines in Germany, so I think PDFs are still there for a while.
Okay. We are all voting for fax machines.
Exactly.
Omnichannel will merge with medcoms and patient engagement by 2030.
If we add commercial hot, yes, ideally, yes.
It's ideal situation, doesn't it? The next frontier of omnichannel is emotional tech, tone, empathy, and trust.
Yes, absolutely.
Yacin, thank you so much. It was such a great discussion, such, conversation about what is going on, how we are prepared to evolve. So what we can do better, where's the problem? I hope our listeners will enjoy this conversation and will follow us, and they know where to find us anyway. We are all at LinkedIn. We are at the conferences. They can approach us anytime, and the conversation will be started over and over again because we all want to be excellent and mature in omnichannel. Thank you so much and see you around. And please, all the listeners, contact us, follow us, and like our posts. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you, Nataliya. Thank you. Speak soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye.